Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So today I plan to talk about, briefly talk about the benefits of the PMP certification process, talk about what you need in order to qualify for the certification exam. That's the experience as well as educational credits, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about the application process itself, preparing for the exam, taking the exam, and then at the end, we'll do a little workshop. And when we get to the workshop, I am going to ask Penny to share the, if you're able to share the spreadsheet in the chat link. If not, I will send it to you all immediately after this training. I'll send a copy to you if you want it. So let's go. Okay, so why even bother with this PMP certification? There are a number of really good reasons. First one being that the PMP certification, I focus mostly on PMP, but there are other, PMI has other certifications that have similar benefits, similar processes. I'm a PMP certified project manager, so I can talk specifically about that. But if you are looking at the what is it, the CAPM, the requirements are less stringent, but similar. There's a risk management certification, there's a program management certification, there's a bunch out there. They may differ slightly, but it's similar. So one of the primary benefits is that PMP certification is globally recognized. And so it has a lot of, frankly, it has a lot of prestige that comes with having those three initials after your name. It indicates that you have a high knowledge of the project management craft, and that's evidenced by the fact that you have to have so many hours of experience before you can even certify. So someone that's coming into an organization with their PMP, that PMP not only says that they passed the test, but it says that they have several years of experience as a project manager across the project management lifecycle. Studies have indicated that having your PMP can increase your earning potential by as much as 20% compared to someone that doesn't have it. And if you are, I've been in government contracting, healthcare sector, most of my 30 plus years of my career. And most of the programs that I've worked on, most of the projects require that the project managers on those government contracts be PMP certified. There's other certifications that are also often asked for, but PMP is by far the biggest one. And then it shows that you're committed to your craft. So, qualifications for the exam. There's 2 slides on here because it depends on whether or not you have an associate degree or less, high school diploma or the associate degree, or whether you have your bachelor's or above. So if you have an associate's degree or lower, you are required to document and show that you have approximately 7,500 hours of project management experience. That equates approximately to 5 years. So with an associate's degree, you have to have been working as a project manager or doing project manager things. It doesn't mean you have to have that title, but you have to have done project management activities for at least 5 years. And when we get to the worksheet, you'll see how I have it split into the 5 critical phases so that it helps you to account for all of the areas in the project management lifecycle. And then in addition to having the 5 years of experience, you have to have 35 hours of project management training. And excuse me, I think it's in a later slide, but the 5 years of experience has to be within the last 8 years. So if you've been a business analyst for a while, or project manager duties, but not full-time project manager for the past 5 years, you can look across the 8 years to find, on this particular project, I didn't have a title of project management, but I participated in reviewing the statement of work. I contributed to interviewing and identifying the roles that are needed. So I did project initiation. Or as part of my requirements gathering, I did I interviewed the customer, and I documented their requirements, and I scheduled some meetings or whatever the things are. And so I can claim that time as part of execution or planning, whichever area it relates to. So even though you may not have been a project manager, if you've done the activities associated with those, that's what you have to document and describe in the application process. So again, for someone with an associate's or lower, it's 7,500 hours, approximately 5 years of experience that you have to extract over the previous 8 years from whenever it is that you apply. So if it's anyone, I know Penny, when she said, someone is looking 2 years from now, so maybe that's someone that's in an analyst role, and you can start thinking about documenting these experiences are the things that I think count. And here's, so I probably have 2,000 hours worth of experience. Now I have to go and work with my manager or find an opportunity that allows me to get the additional experience I need in order to qualify when I'm ready to take the test. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. Penny, just interrupt me, and or you can, this group is small enough, if you want to unmute and ask a question, that's fine too. That actually would work for me. Okay, so the requirements for someone that has a bachelor's, master's, or above is only 3 years of experience. So you have a bachelor's plus 3 years. If it's an associate or less, it's the associate plus 5 years. Same 8 years that you have to consider. You can't go back if you were a project manager 20 years ago and you left to do development or to start your own business. Well, if you started your own business, you could probably find project management hours in there. But if it's older than the 8 years, which is on the next slide, you'll see in a minute, you can't consider that. You have to have more current projects. So find 36 months, approximately 4,500 hours of project management experience across the life cycle, drawn from the last 8 years. The training requirement is the same. The one note I have here is if anyone does decide to take a boot camp course with someone, not me, most of the boot camp trainings cover this 35 hours in case you need the full training. Most of the boot camps are 35 hours or more. So if you need the training and you weren't planning on doing a boot camp, that might be a way to get the 35 hours required. But there's also other ways. I mean, any leadership training, communication training, a lot of training that you may do at work, those hours count, but you have to keep track of them and make sure you maintain evidence of them. I got my PMP back in 2009. Yes, 2009. And I can remember looking back over, okay, I did this Skillsoft training on time management, and I took a 2-hour course on communication, and I was able to use that, but I had to have my certificate from Skillsoft. This was 2009. It would be LinkedIn Learning or Udemy or edX or whatever organization you took the training, PMI actually, but you have to have evidence of that. And the reason for that is because we'll talk about this later too. When you do the application process, at least when I took it, it was approximately 10% of the applications get audited. And I took the boot camp on the job. They had about 30 of us go through the training together. And there were probably 4 or 5 people, including my boss, that was audited. Their applications were audited. So you do want to make sure when you fill out the application that it's asking you, you know, who was your manager, who can I contact to verify this? Again, I think it's still only about 10%, but if I've got 14 people planned for this training, one of you is likely to get audited. You know, 1.4 of you is likely to get audited. So you want to be able to back up what you put on that application in case you get audited. Any questions so far? Okay. I already said this, but only the most recent 8 years of experience can be considered when you fill out the application.
Cheryl, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is a question in the chat. The question is, I have a bachelor in communication studies. Would that be okay?
Yes, it doesn't have to be. My bachelor's degree is in computer science. My boss was phys ed teacher was her degree, whatever that equates to. So it doesn't matter what your degree is in, it's the level coupled with experience. Great question. Thank you for that. Okay. Only the most recent 8 years, I already said that. And you must have experience in each of the project phases, which is on the next slide. Okay, so I need to caveat and say this presentation was developed based on the 6th edition of the PMBOK. The 7th edition came out last year. I know it was supposed to come out at the beginning of last year, but I think it came out in the last 2 or 3 months. My understanding from talking to people that recently took the test or are in the application process now is that the boot camps still focus on PMBOK, the PMBOK 6th edition, because it's what talks about these phases. The two, I have my, what is this, 740 some page 6th edition PMBOK. My understanding, the 7th edition is down to 200 pages, and it's flipped, whether it has the standard versus the PMBOK itself. I think in this book, I don't know which one is first, but the 7th edition is flipped, a lot less information. So you still want to look at the 6th edition. Anyone that's doing the boot camp training, they should be certified through PMI, and they'll be following guidelines from PMI.org. But so my point is that you do want to look, frankly, you need to look at both the 6th edition and the 7th edition. One of the big differences between the two is the 7th edition of the PMBOK, as I understand, is has a lot more agile methodology in it, as opposed to the waterfall focus of all of the previous versions of the PMBOK. One other caution is if you find someone that says, hey, I have a 4th edition, you want to have that, you probably don't want to look at anything older than 6th edition to help you study. So just putting it out there, 6th edition and the 7th edition are what you want to focus on. So the 5 phases initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. And when we go through the worksheet again, I have columns for each of these areas. I don't think on the application you have to put in, we'll talk about that when we get to the worksheet, but I have it split by these 5 phases where you can say I have approximately, 40 hours on this project was spent on planning. I started after the initiation phase, so I don't have anything here. Most of my work, I was on the project for 6 months. It was all in execution or monitoring and control. So it allows you to break it down just so you can feel comfortable that you, over the course of whatever different projects you use as a on your application, that you can cover all of the phases. So we'll talk about that more when we get to the worksheet. We're doing good on time. With the 6th edition and before, I think when I took the test, it was probably the 4th edition. And I believe this is still relevant though. On the test in the past, this was the breakdown of the questions. So on the test, 80% of the questions were related to planning, execution, monitoring, and control. Initiation and closing were 13% and 7% respectively, as you can see here. And why I bring this up is because you want to focus this is just Cheryl's little nugget. Take it, I would encourage you again to get in a boot camp and have someone give you more current advice on this. But in real life, over the course of a project, this is probably a pretty accurate breakdown of how much time you would spend in each phase if you were on a project from beginning to end. A lot of the projects, a lot of us, maybe we join a project that's already in stream. There's been several projects where I've joined and they were on the 3rd year of a 5-year contract. So initiation and planning had long been done, and I only was there for execution, monitor, control, and closing. But there's other projects, then I moved on to something else that I might have done some of the upfront work, some of the initiation activities, and maybe stayed the duration, or maybe I moved, left and went somewhere else and didn't get to closing. So let me show you, well, before I go to the next slide, a couple of notes I noticed in looking at some information on the 7th edition. The 7th edition has, first of all, it's split, the test is about 50% waterfall or predictive life cycle, and the other 50% focuses on agile and hybrid. And those questions, it's not like you'll have a section on waterfall and a section on agile. You'll have in your planning, there's going to be planning questions that half of them are waterfall related, half of them are agile. And again, this is from just looking at some of the documentation, which I will show you if we have time. I'll go into PMI.org and show you where you can find more information on everything that I have here, and specifically the 7th edition versus the 6th edition. So what, I don't know if I said this already, but the 7th edition has the 3 domains. It talks about people, which is about 42% of the test, processes, which is what all of this is, is 50%. And then there might be 8% of the questions around business environment. So for more on that, I encourage you to look at PMI.org. If you're not a member of PMI.org, highly recommend that you consider joining, whether you have your PMP or not. You don't have to have a PMP to join. There's a lot of benefits. You get discounts in some of your fees. I don't know if it applies to the test, but on trainings and courses and other things, the 7th edition PMBOK was free for me because I'm a member of PMI and the local chapter as well. So I didn't have to go and buy the book. I could just download it. So I have a soft copy. Okay, I think that's all I want to say here. 7:30. So this is just a screenshot of the worksheet that I am going to walk you through. It's pre-populated with what, I think I'm hilarious. I think I'm the only one, but I use a project I'm calling Anvil Distribution by the Acme Company. My contact is Wally Coyote. His email is genius@aol.com, blah, blah, blah. We'll go through this when we go through the actual workshop. And the second one is PPG Creations, which is stands for Powerpuff Girls. But be thinking about this, because if there's someone that wants to, when we get to the spreadsheet, if you want me to use your experience and just kind of talk through how it would play out, we can do that. I'll just ask for one volunteer when we get there. So be ready if you're interested. And we'll walk through an example with you, have you kind of just describe a project that you worked on that you think is relevant, and we can figure out how to help you figure out how to where to place your hours, and that'll help you understand where you are and what if you've got any gaps. That it'll be a good starter for you in filling out your form if you choose to use this spreadsheet. Okay. So applying for the exam. Let me see if this works. It did. So I just wanted to show you all, and my screen that you all are seeing is over here. That's why I'm looking away. I wanted to show you all, this is PMI.org. I'm not logged in, so if you went out there, you don't have to be a PMP member to come to this page, but it gives you information on the exam process. Everything that I've talked to you about, and way more detail than I can give in 45 minutes to an hour, is out here. By exam type, whether you're looking for the PMP, CAPM, ACP is Agile. I can't remember what that stands for. This is risk, and so on and so forth.
Agile coach.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. So yeah, everything you need is out here. And if you play around, I think there's some videos and testimonials and stuff about the exam. So this is the certification process. Let me click here. It talks about the test itself. There's some videos I'm not going to go through, but you can, on your, when you have a minute, it talks about, like taking the test from home, and how you have to like take your camera and show your environment and make sure they can see the whole room so nobody can come in. If we have time, I can talk to you about the process I went through when I did the exam. And basically, I had to pull all of my pockets out and lock my purse and lunch in a locker so that I wouldn't have little cheat sheets and stuff. They're really serious. And they take the code of ethics, which you have to know and agree to, really seriously. So be aware of that. So anyway, I just wanted to show you all that this was out here. And I will close it for now in case we want to come back. If we have time and anyone's interested, I can go into my I can sign in and just show you some things around, PDUs and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you here. Okay, so all of the information on the PMI.org website that I just showed you, all of this is out there, like I said. When you apply for the exam, once you start, you have 90 days to complete your application process. So I highly recommend that you get your data together before you fill out the application. Then you fill it out online, and don't submit it until you feel confident that you have everything that you want to submit. Once you submit the application, they have about between 5 and 10 days is what they say to conduct a verification and review of your application to make sure it's complete. Like I mentioned before, out of those applications that they review, about 10% of them will be audited. So the spreadsheet that I have columns where you will list the name of the project, who is a contact who can verify that you actually worked on it and did the things you say. In case you get audited, you'll have all of that information right in one place and you're good to go. You don't want to pay your fee until you've gotten confirmation from them that they have reviewed and accepted your application. And then the last, when I last checked, the exam fee was $405. And like I said, I don't remember if that's discounted because I'm a member of PMI and that's what they told me, but I think this is the fee to test. So it's about $400. If you have any questions, jump in or put them in the chat and Penny will interrupt for you. Okay, so very important, gather your data first. And that's what most of the remaining few minutes on this call is about, to look at that worksheet and help you to gather your data. Once you've paid, so once they've said, okay, your application is good, you're eligible, they'll give you an eligibility number. And that is what allows you to then take the test, register for the test. You'll need to schedule an appointment. I think they're still doing both in person, but I understand it's really hard to get an in-person slot because of COVID and limiting the number of people and all of that. Most people are doing them online now. And like I said, take a look at the PMI.org information to get some more information about that process. Very strict. I just had a friend, a coworker who just right before Christmas took her PMP exam, and she came into the office and she had to make sure she had a camera in the room that showed the whole office so that, like I said earlier, no one was in the room with her. She wasn't able to, have her PMBOK over here hidden or have any online aids and stuff like that. So the process is really pretty strict. You have a year to take the exam once you have received your eligibility, and you have up to 3 attempts, after which you have to start the process over again. But within that 1 year, if you don't pass on the first try, you have two more chances to pass the test. Okay, so I just want to keep mentioning that most of my research and most of this presentation is based on the 6th edition. I did see information in one of the documents I looked at online on PMI.org that did say they recommend that you look at the 6th edition PMBOK to prepare for the test still. if you are going to do a boot camp, they'll definitely guide you in the right direction. Yeah. And again, that's just here, ways to prepare. One, you want to look at the 6th edition. You also want to look at the 7th edition, because I don't think the 6th edition had a lot around Agile. And since the website said that about 50% of the test is Agile focused, you do want to make sure you at least take a look at the 7th edition and see what it has to say about those things. The test it's timed, it's 4 hours. There's 200 questions. And of those questions, 175 are scored. Unfortunately, you don't know which 175, so it's not like you can go in and say, I'm just going to skip these 25 questions because only 175 are scored. You don't know which ones are not actually scored. And what I understand is part of the reason they do this is some of the extra questions allow them to improve going forward. So they, it's for process improvement. The test is multiple choice, but with that said, it's not easy.
Cheryl, there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
So will we need to buy both books, 6th and 7th edition? Are they both expensive?
So I am not. So let me back up. First of all, if you're a member of PMI.org, I believe you can download the 7th edition for free, and it may be both. I've had.
So may I interject?
Yes, because you just went through the process. Thank you.
Absolutely. So as a member of PMI, you can download both. Also both for free. And what they do is they put a password on it so that only you can get into it, only you can access it. So you are allowed to download both. The other thing I did want to mention is the PMP training class that I took. They do give you a lot of details on both. So they know that there's 50% that's Agile, and he mentioned that. And he also made sure that he had a lot of information from the 7th edition as well, from Agile. And then there's another question that can we print the downloads of the books?
Yes.
Takes a lot of paper for the 6th edition, but you can print it.
Yeah, let me just say, I don't know if you can see this. This thing is like those, some of you might not know the old phone books, but this one is 700, 6th edition is 756 pages. And the 7th edition is 200 and some. So you can, if that's what you choose to do. I mean, they're also available on Amazon, a bound version like the one that I have. I don't know if you guys can see this well or not, because I can't see myself, but, and I don't honestly, don't know the cost. I'm not sure, but, yeah. Penny, when you took the boot camp, was in either of the PIN box included in the cost or no? Oh, well, you're a PMI member, so it didn't matter. Right. You got to download it. But do you know?
Yeah, so he didn't, because he said that it would probably be better for us to just go ahead and join PMI, and everybody that was in my class had already joined. Mm-hmm. And I think it's I can't remember exactly
$129.
Right, $129.
To join PMI.org. And again, I don't work for PMI.org at all, but if you're able, I recommend that you consider joining. For one, you can download these books.
And they are expensive if you don't.
Yeah, so that might cover the cost right there. And secondly, you also have access to different trainings and project management. There's a projectmanagement.org website that you can become a member of for free, and they offer free 1 hour excuse me, video trainings that you can claim your PDUs as they count towards your recertification process, your project development, program development units, I think it stands for. And if we have time, I can show you what I'm talking about later.
And one other thing, one other benefit for joining PMI is you do get a discount on any boot camp. I got a $300 discount on the boot camp that I participated in last month.
If it's through a PMI authorized vendor, and most are, but there are, beware, there are people out there selling boot camps that aren't authorized. And let me just say, that doesn't mean they don't have a quality program, because frankly, to be authorized is expensive. It's one of the reasons I don't offer a boot camp, because I would want to do it as an authorized, PMI authorized trainer. And it's expensive to do that. But it is something you want to consider. They've been vetted. And like I said, if it's not a PMI authorized vendor, then make sure you get it's a referral from someone you trust. Okay, okay. So let's see if I can get this spreadsheet to open. Is there someone, if there's someone that wants to be, that wants me to walk through an example specific to them, just put me in the chat. And Penny, if you get a volunteer, if not, I'm going to go through these made up examples. Let me know, and I might have to take over the host so that we can, no, I'll just have them unmute. We'll give you the Jeopardy 10 seconds. Do, 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 do.
No volunteers as yet.
Okay. Okay. So we'll just talk through this. We'll just talk through the spreadsheet. And like I said, Penny, I don't know if you can put this, because of the way I have the, I didn't open the chat so everybody can talk to everybody. If you can put a copy of this in the chat for others, I'm not sure. But if not, let me know and I'll email it to everyone that registered through Eventbrite. I'll email a copy. If you, I mean, it's, you know, I didn't lock this or put, you know, my Just Swim Consulting label. It's such a basic spreadsheet, but it's really helpful and useful, I think. So I am going to have to turn and look at this screen and see if I can move it over a little bit. So I'm not totally. Okay. So we're going to just use my examples. This particular, so this is me made up Just Swim Consulting, my qualification spreadsheet. The first project that I worked on was the Anvil distribution for the company I worked at was Acme. Here's their address, 1 Grand Canyon Way. The contact, my boss at this company was Wally Coyote. His email is genius@aol.com. Here's his phone number. And again, so all of this information here is to help you should you get audited. You'll have this one spreadsheet, everything in one place. The information you're actually going to put on the application is what you write here in the justification. That's all you need to put in the application. They're going to review it. That's that 5 to 7 days. And they're going to determine, based on what you say, whether or not it looks like you hit all of the process areas. Now, you don't, on the application process, and Penny can correct me if I'm wrong, because she just did it. She's in the process right now. You don't say, I had, 45 hours of initiation, 80 planning. This you don't have to do. But what this does by having it in the spreadsheet, it allows you to make sure that you've got the relevant experience over time that's required to get to the 4,500. So this person must have a bachelor's degree. And so their required hours are 4,500. And they said, and this isn't exact, you don't have to go through your timesheets and figure out to the minute, what you did. But on this Anvil distribution project, I worked for Wile E. Coyote in the Grand Canyon Way, and I spent a total of 960 hours. I'm not going to do the fast math as to how many months that was, but what is 360, less than 3 years on this project. And so it was a long time. I was on it from the beginning until it closed. And here's about how much time I spent in each phase. And as you can see, when you do this, it should work out to about 80% of your time is in these critical areas. All of them are important, but the majority of your time should be in planning, execution, monitoring, and control. You do initiation once, that's looking at the statement of work, that's looking at the requirements, that's considering what kind of people need to be on the project, those kinds of things. This is, I made this up, but this is probably a good estimate of how much time I would spend on a project of this size. Closing, you've ended the project, you delivered your product or your service or your release or whatever to your customer, and you just have to wrap up. You have to delete some files because they're secure. You have to deliver a package to the customer. It's been installed, they've been trained, all of that's happened. You close out the project, boom, you're done. You've reallocated your team to other projects. That's closeout. So maybe that's more than 20 hours, but again, this is an example. Most of your work is I create a project plan, a communication plan, a risk management plan, a whatever plan. I'm doing my planning, resource planning. I'm now for 2-3 years, I'm executing. I'm either building the thing that I build or providing the service that I provide or doing the thing that I do. And then you monitor your team and your customer and your progress and that kind of stuff. And we already talked about closeout. So for this annual distribution project that I spent about 3 years on, here's the work. And here's where I describe what I did. So I created a system for designing and mailing prototype anvils for use in extreme heat in the desert. I reviewed the statement of work. I created a charter, identified stakeholders, all of the buzzwords that say I did initiation. But you would talk about what you actually did. I created. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to let everyone know that I did put the PMP certification process or spreadsheet in the chat room. If you can see if you can pull it up.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that you can follow her along. Sorry.
Yep. Thank you, Penny. I also created a schedule using Microsoft Project or whatever tool you might use. I had to do a communication plan, other project plans. I led a team of analysts and developers using an agile methodology to produce blah, 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 and ship prototypes. I constantly had to revise the prototype because it kept falling on me instead of the road runner. And I closed the project after conducting a final lessons learned. So lessons learned, retrospectives, that kind of thing would be part of closure. So this narrative is what actually goes on the application. So for Powerpuff Girls, I didn't go through that process, but what I wanted to show here was on this project, start and finish dates are important too. That you actually put on the application. So they're going to calculate, okay, so let me just say, my start and finish dates don't work with how much time I said I worked on the project. But let me just make this 2018. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so they're going to kind of do the math based on what you put here and the narrative you put here. And they see, okay, based on this description, I do see some that they did initiation, planning, execution, and closing. Boom. So they'll say, yep, this works. They have enough hours. And then you have the second one. So this one is one that I started in the middle. And so I didn't do initiation and planning. So I'm only going to account for hours here. And again, why I have this spreadsheet this way so that you break this up is so that at the end of the day, it's totaling this up for you, all of your projects, This column is all it's looking at. And it's saying, Cheryl, as of right now, you have 200 of the required 4,500 hours. Your requirement is not met. If I put another project in here and I put 500, see, I'm making this up. I just want to get the numbers to go big. So now I have 4,600 hours and this changed to requirement met. So if you have the spreadsheet, you update it over the next year and a half, whatever time frame you said you're looking at doing the test, you can document your projects as you work on them. Like when you're doing your self-assessment for your performance review, if you still do that, that might be a good time to sit back and say, or at project closure for whether it's a release or a project or whatever you worked on during closure, you might want to reflect back and fill this out for that project, or do it as you go. And that way it's going to be easy for you when you have to sit and do the application. You've got everything in one place, you're ready to go, fill it out, boom. You've got everything you need. And if you're in that 10% and you get audited, you've got all of this documented. I don't work at Anvil Distribution anymore, but here's the contact information of someone that can verify that I did what I said. And you also want to make sure that whoever you put here, that they know. At least once you find out you're audited, you might want to give them a heads up before you send that information off to the to PMI that I put your name down to confirm, and you might want to even share what you said to them so that they know what you said. Okay, there's some other stuff in here. This one, okay, so on this spreadsheet, I put in here that I have a BA or higher. I just put the X here, and that's how this knew that the required hours were 4,500. That's really the value here. I also put this information just as an FYI. Here's the process areas. And back in the 6th edition, these were the knowledge areas that were referenced. Again, it's just information there that I thought might be helpful. Also put a place for you to document your training that you want to cite. So like I said, the boot camps are us, typically they're 35 or 36 hours. And that's enough to satisfy the requirement. So there's a space here, use this if you want.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, there's a question in the chat. Actually, a couple of questions. We have 1 year to pass the exam. When does the year begin? The day of the application gets approved, or the day I take the exam?
It begins when they give you that number that says your application was approved.
And I will verify that because I'm excited. I just got that verification that my application was accepted, and they started the countdown 2 days ago. So that's
yes, I believe it's once now that Penny has that acknowledgement, she has a year to take the test.
Yes. Also, what is the suggested time frame to study for the exam before I take this exam?
So that's a good question. So here's what I'll say. And just so you all know, it's 7:57. I am at the end of the presentation. Let me go hold that question for 1 minute in case people have to leave at 8. I'll stay for another 15 minutes to answer questions. But let me close this. I'll minimize it. We did that. Let me just go to the next slide. And Penny, I think I sent this to you as well. If you don't mind, if you would put these links in the chat, I would very much love if you would follow me or reach out to me on LinkedIn. This is my website, and also my Facebook website for Just Swim Consulting. That's the name of my business, in case you didn't know that by now. So that is the formal end, but I will stay because we have 2 minutes to 8 and I scheduled this 1 hour, I'll stay and answer a question. So Penny, can you read that question to me again?
Yes, and also I can kind of give you a little bit of my experience with the application process, since I just went through it, if you're willing to stay, if you're interested in hearing that as well.
Yep.
So the second question also, what is the suggested time frame to study for the exam before I take the exam?
Okay, so that's a interesting question. I'll tell you, when I took it, again, it's been a while, 2009. I went through a boot camp, and Penny, you can jump in and see if you were told anything different, but it was suggested that you try and take the exam within a few weeks of finishing the boot camp. And the reason is that, at least when I took it, the boot camp basically, they created another book of this size, and we basically went through this page by page, and the idea was just learn this stuff, memorize it. There's a lot of formulas. When I went through it, they gave us a formula sheet that had maybe 20 formulas to help us to try and memorize these formulas. Earned value, estimate at completion, all kinds of things. And you get that. The boot camp kind of prepares you. It doesn't teach you project management. It prepares you for the test. It teaches you the PMP. Okay, so the recommendation is, because it's so much information, to take it within a few weeks of completing the boot camp. So that's a partial answer to your question. The other thing I'll say is, when I took the test, and this is just, I'm just going to admit it, most of my experience was in the execution and monitoring and control and planning, those middle buckets. And I did so well in those areas because I knew that's what I did. That was the life I had lived for, I don't know, this was 2009, 8 years or so of project management at that time. And so while I did well in the areas that I knew well from experience, which is why experience is important. And the areas, I cannot say it, initiation and closure, were areas that I had not spent a lot of time in, and I didn't do as well. But I did well enough in those other areas that I passed the test, thank goodness, on the first try. I used almost every minute of those 4 hours. As I remember, I might, my memory might be a little foggy. It just seemed like it wasn't a fun time. The test is not easy, but lots of people pass it. And again, I think it really is important that you have that experience along with the boot camp or studying. And you don't have to, there's a lot of online, on LinkedIn, there's people every day I see that have a free sample test that you can take. Again, they can't present actual questions, so it's them making up stuff that they think, but it can be helpful in preparing you for the test. I know this has been a long-winded answer because I think it's going to differ for everyone how much time you need to prepare. It depends on how much experience you have, your comfort level with going through that book and just feeling good about it. But it is suggested that once you finish your whatever preparation you're going to do, that you try to take the test within a few weeks of that time. Penny, you wanted to add to that?
Actually, I do agree that I was told 2 weeks, but of course that's not necessarily easy to do, depending on the application process. So it's already been past 2 weeks for me because of the application. But also, Cheryl, I have a couple more questions in the chat room. I just wanted to read out to you.
Okay.
If you don't pass on the first time, how long do you have to wait to retake the test? Besides boot camp, is a study group also recommended? Two-part question.
So the second part of that, yes, I highly recommend a study group.
Yes.
I was fortunate that I did it on the job. And so my peers, my coworkers, we were able to work together. We were able to use examples from work we actually did and helped me to relate to what the PMBOK was saying. I had a better perspective because I would take what they were telling me and I could use real life examples. And everybody in that room was from the same project, the same team. So we were able to help each other to do it. I think I would, and I'm guesstimating probably 80% of us that took the test passed on the first go. There were some that didn't. That's just the way it is. What was the first part of that question, Penny?
So the first part was, and similar to another person's question, if you don't pass on the first time, how long do you have to wait to retake the test?
Yeah, I don't know that there is a limit. So my short answer is I'm not sure. But if you go to PMI.org and look at that, if you search under certification, I think it's a tab that says the certification process or whatever. There's a booklet out there. I might have that. Hold on for a second. I might have that open. Do I still have it open?
I'm looking as well.
Give me a second. Yeah, I think if you come here to the certification resources and the process, I'm sure there's a booklet out here. And the answer to your question is most likely there. Let me see if I can move this. Sorry. That was my website. That's not what I wanted to show you. Close that. Just make it small. I'm trying to get this from under the banner and it's blocking me. Let me make this bigger. Okay. Stay. No. Give me one. Anyway, I think the information, you can find the information on PMI.org to answer that question. To be honest, I don't know. Just one more second, because I'm pretty sure I had that open. Nope, this is about content. But let me just show you this though, since I do have it open. This is one. There's another one. I must have closed it already, but it talks about the examination content as of January 2021. Yeah, so it's just some general information. Like I said, there's a lot of information at the website. This is people, process, and business environment that I talked about. Half of the exam will be predictive, which is waterfall. The other half is on agile or hybrid. It's found throughout the different domains above. It's not isolated to a particular one. So that information is out there. I'm sorry, I don't know. What I would suggest is, I believe, and again, I took the test a long time ago, but I believe that when you get your results immediately, if you do it online from home, once you submit it, it's scored and you either passed or you didn't. And I believe they show you what areas, how you did by area. At least that's how it was when I took it. And so you would know what areas you might need to brush up on. So whatever time you need to refresh in those areas is the right amount of time. You just have to pass within 1 year and you get 3 tries. Was there another question, Penny?
There was, but I think you just answered the question. It was the same similar question. Let's say I don't pass the exam for the first try. Can I retake it after 2 weeks again? So I think it's pretty much answered by the same.
Okay. I believe the answer is yes, but I'm not 100% sure. I just don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
And I was looking in my notes as well, but they don't really talk about if you fail because they are hoping that you won't, but I do think that you can take it. It doesn't matter how long, you just have to.
I
take it,
will
like
tell
7
you,
weeks
after that
within a
4
year
hours,
sometime.
if you're not successful, you probably won't want to take it the very next day.
Yes.
You're going to
Or probably next week or
decompress
so.
and come back. Penny, I'm going to reclaim host so I
Okay.
can see what's going on, hopefully. Yeah, it's not showing me anything. Okay, so that is everything. Again, please, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. Just put in the note that you participated in this class so I know who you are. I hope this was helpful.
Can I interject? I'm sorry. Can I interject just one thing? And this is not to sell anything or to give any kudos to the presenter, but when I did my application process, when I first put my application, or I sent it to the boot camp trainer, I sent it to him. He looked at my application and he said, I guarantee you, if you send this application in as it is, you're going to get audited. And I've had to sit back and think. And when I took this class and I was reminded of this spreadsheet, I looked at the spreadsheet because I hadn't used it. I looked at that spreadsheet and I documented things that I was a senior business analyst. And I had no idea that a lot of the activities that I was doing was actually project management. So once I documented it, I was able to really do a better job at doing my application. And I resent it to my the boot camp trainer, and he gave me such good feedback. And a testimony to that again is that I sent my application in on the 18th of December. They say 5 to 10 days, but because it was over the Christmas holiday, I'm sure it took a little bit longer. But again, I just found out today that I was accepted, which means I'm hoping that means I don't get audited. I'm not getting audited since it's been approved.
So I think that's a long way of saying that she felt like the spreadsheet was helpful.
The spreadsheet was very helpful. Yeah.
Okay, guys, please reach out to me if you have any questions. You know how to reach me. I thank you so much for coming, and have a great rest of your evening. Bye now.